Good afternoon, everybody. Well, good afternoon probably for those who are joining from European time zone, and probably good morning for those who are joining our webinar from US. Hope we have some viewers from US as well. So welcome to One Click Factory discussion about the total cost of ownership of Dynamics 365 Business Central, or NAV, actually. And the topic of today is basically to discuss what is the better option, if there's a better option, either to run the Dynamics Business Central on the hosting partner offering, or whether to try it to invest in-house. But maybe just a little bit of context to this discussion. So I believe if you are joining this webinar, you are most probably Dynamics partner, and you are using NAV or Business Central. And you might experience situations when Microsoft latest Business Central SaaS offering might not fit for any good reasons, right? So and your customers may still want to use all the benefits of the cloud. So what options do you have? So you have basically a few options from our point of view, is to try to run NAV or Business Central in the cloud yourself, or maybe try to partner with a hosting provider. So a little bit of introduction about the companies who are present in this webinar. So my name is Rimvydas Saulis, and I run the One Click Factory's Cloud Business Line department. And today with me, I have Tomas Stankevičius, who is our One Click Factory R&D lead. A few words about One Click Factory. So One Click Factory, at One Click Factory, what do? We provide the services to Dynamics partners. And those services range from the upgrades, development, projects, and also with the cloud offerings that we offer to the Dynamics partners. So currently we have more than 20,000 users on our NAV and Business Central on Azure hosting offering. So we're probably one of the biggest NAV or Business Central on Azure hosting providers in the world, and we have a decent experience to talk about this topic. On the other side, we also have well-known worldwide business solutions partner, Cosmo Consult. So Cosmo Consult is a huge business solutions, I would say, company present in many countries, probably more than a dozen countries, with more than 1,000 specialists, thousands of customers, serving ERP, CRM, and other solution areas, different verticals. So Cosmo Consult, we are very happy to have Cosmo Consult in this webinar, as this partner brings a lot of experience in the area of ERP, solutions, CRM, and also cloud. So just a little bit of a heads up. So Cosmo Consult was using One Click Factory, and still using One Click Factory hosting offer, but they gone through the journey building the offering themselves. So they know better than anyone what it takes to build an offering of a cloud offering themselves. And I hope they will share with us now their experience and basically do's and don'ts. So from Cosmo Consult, I'm happy to have Tobias Fenster, who is a Chief Technical Officer at Cosmo Consult. So welcome, Tobias.
Thanks for having me.
And also Christian Krause, who is the Chief Operation Officer at Cosmo Consult. So welcome, Christian.
Hi.
So before we start the discussions, I maybe would like to give a little bit of a heads up on the ground rules of this discussion. So this discussion is a live event. So we want to make it as interactive as possible. So if you have connected to this webinar, you may see the chat box at the bottom right corner of your screen. At least it's on the bottom right corner of my screen, where you can ask the questions at any time. We will be picking up questions either during the discussion, depends on the question, or we will answer questions at the end of the webinar. But anyway, feel free to ask questions there. Feel free to give us suggestions. Feel free to challenge us if you hear something that is not resonating for you. Feel free to basically express your opinion there at any point of time. So we we would like to have this discussion as interactive as possible. And one more thing, again, before we start the discussion itself, I was thinking that maybe we could open up a quick poll on the participants of this webinar, so to basically to find out what is your experience with different cloud offerings in regards of the Dynamics NAV or Business Central. So feel free to answer this question, submit your answers. You can select multiple answers. So if you have tried BC SaaS and you have tried One Click Factory offering, or you another host, or maybe you have tried yourself, feel free to click on multiple boxes. So we'll wait a moment to see what is it in our audience. Okay, I see that the results are coming. Okay, so I think we have results. Let me see, how can I open the results? Okay, so basically from the answers that we got, I saw that roughly a third of the participants have tried BC SaaS. Well, I'm glad that quite a few of the participants have tried One Click Factory or another hosting partner, our competitor offering. So you pretty much know what is in the specialized hosting provider offering. A little bit less of you have tried to set it up, the cloud offering yourself. So that might be, if you are still interested and considering building up the cloud offering yourself, you might find the Cosmo Consult experience very, very useful. And some of you haven't tried the cloud option yet, but I'm sure the cloud is really the theme for the past I would say several years or even 10 years. I'm sure that you are experiencing situations when customers really want to go to cloud. They don't want infrastructure issues and all that. So you're probably interested to hear what options do you have. Okay, so let's kick off the discussion. So maybe Thomas, I would like to start from you actually. So at One Click Factory, we have created this our hosting offering for the Dynamics partners, I think 6 or 7 years ago. And you were basically at the very start of this offering. You basically started this offering. So what was then the key decisive factor for you and the team to basically build this offering? What triggered that decision to build it?
So hello everyone. It's a very good question, I would say. So we started our journey like 7 years ago. And I was one of those who decided that we need to go for that road. And decision was pretty simple at that time, taking into account that Microsoft was trying to start, I would call it like this, to start their cloud journey, even though they have those data centers for a very long time. But still, they tried to start their business. They tried to start their business with NAV and Business Central at that time. And we saw it as a big opportunity because Microsoft was supporting every partner who would like to do that. And we decided why not to work together with one of our main partners, with Microsoft. Why not to build this good relationship, and why not to start this business and help partners? We believe even at that time that the cloud is the future. So we saw that it's where we need to start going. We tried that with other service, with our business portal. So we created that piece. And we understood that, yes, if we want to go, if we want to help, if we want to achieve our vision, then this is the right way. So this was very easy decision back then because we had the support from Microsoft. We also saw that our future is in that area. So it was very, very easy decision for us to make. And at the beginning, as usually all of the people are doing, we not started just by creating everything from the scratch. So at the beginning, most of you know who are using One-Click Factory service, self-provisioning service for 7 or 6 years, you know that we used before some provider. So we had also some support company who provided the service. But at the end of the day, we understood that everyone needs to take to have the business to get their money, let's call it that way, and we cannot put everything on our customers. So we decided that we would like to provide the best service that we can just by having our own independent platform. So at that point, it was a little bit later than 7 years ago. It was like 5 years ago. We started our own journey with all our own development and implementation and support. So it was like a step by step, but it was just forced, let's say, by the new tendencies in the world.
So back then, there were not that many, I would say, competent partners that have experience to run, NAV or BC in the cloud, right? But throughout those years, I believe, it was a pretty frequent situation when partners interested in One-Click Factory offering were also basically thinking about doing it themselves. Or was it a frequent situation when you faced partners thinking about doing it themselves?
So again, if we will go back those 7 years, so it was like a new RTC client version. So everyone loved this word, RTC client. So at that time, partners already started facing a lot of challenges, which were they need to understand how this new RTC client, they also understand that there is not a lot of functionality that they can use from the classic. They need to transform report, they need to change the forms to pages, and so on and so on. So they had a lot of let's see, challenges in their daily work already. And to take another one challenge, which is do everything on the cloud, at that time was too complicated for most of the partners. We as an upgrade company, we were specializing on that. So we are specializing on upgrade, so we have all the tools. So for us, it was not like a very big challenge just to start another one, let's say, business. Today, we have a different situation. Yes, we have also this AL language. We have Business Central, which is customized a little bit differently. And yes, people need to learn some new things, but everything is already on the cloud. So people already know a lot. So we were in a different situation, and our support was on a different level than it is needed today. So today, it's a bigger competition, let's say, in that I will do by myself.
I'm sure. So actually, I want to turn now to our friends from Cosmo Consult. So Cosmo Consult is, well, as I said, is one of the biggest solution partners around the world. You were using our platform. Well, you're still using for some of your customers, but you also have decided to build the offering yourself. As far as I understand, your offering is basically targeted to the end customers, while One-Click Factory offering is targeted to the partners who would eventually host their end customers. But I would like to ask you, what was then the decisive factor from your side to build a hosting platform for your customers yourself?
I mean, as you said, we're targeting our customers, so we didn't look at the market like you were doing and explaining. We just looked at our customer base. And that is probably already one of the crucial things. We thought that our customer base is probably big enough. When we were doing this, the story was getting clearer around the cloud offering by Microsoft. As Thomas said, when you started, it was probably still a bit in the fog, so to speak, but now it's cloudy but clearer. So we felt like this is probably not something strictly for Business Central that is going to live for like the next 20 years. Not that we could speak about that kind of time frame in the IT anyways, but we really felt like there is a segment of our customers who would want to move into an offering that is completely managed for them, but they are not able or not willing to go into SaaS because they are in a regulated industry or because the right localization is missing or whatever the reason might be. But we felt like there is a portion of the market or a portion of our customers that would be interested in such an offering, and it's large enough that it validates the idea of having such an offering. with the idea in mind that this is probably not something that will live forever, but we still felt there's a couple of years left where this is the kind of a growth market, not the biggest growth market certainly, but still we can see the demand. So we decided to look into that more closely. And also, as you already mentioned, we're not only doing Business Central, that's certainly a big part of our business, but we're also doing other offerings, including FNSCM, CRM, but also including Azure. So we're basically offering what we call cloud and IT services, which Christian is also heading. So that is also something where we felt like, okay, we want to and we have to build up that knowledge anyways. For us internally, for the offerings that we will make for our customers who want to bring in whatever workload onto Azure. So if you already build up that team, if you already build up that skill, then it might make sense to also offer something that would be a BC hosting offering. So basically the combination of the number of customers that might be willing to look into that area, as well as our own expansion into an Azure world that was happening at the same time. So that was kind of a good fit for us to get started.
But if we would try to put it simply, is there like a number of customers that would basically justify this building the platform, building the hosting offer yourself? I mean, is it like 100? Is it 10? Is it 1,000? Is it, I don't know, 10,000 customers?
I mean, you certainly shared impressive numbers when we started, and we're not even close to that, to be completely open there. But I definitely think you should be able to go into double-digit numbers very soon. So if you're staying with 3, 4, 5 customers, that's probably not going to work. And you should have a chance to go short or midterm into 50, 60, 70, something in that area. Otherwise, at least in my opinion, it's going to be tough to really scale it to the way that you need it to be good enough to have the skills that you need and still earn money. So I would say that is kind of the lower barrier, not in the first year, not in the second year, but you need to have a realistic plan to scale it in that direction to make it worth your while.
So, but again, to clarify, the 50, 60 is once you would qualify for your cloud offering. It's not the total base of your old customer.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's your target market for this exact offering.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if you make a calculation, like let's say you have 10% of your customers that might be interested in that kind of an offering, then I would say you should have something like 500 customers, because I mean 10% of 500 is 50. So that should be the total number of customers. If you start with a customer base of 50, then chances, at least in my opinion, would be that this is not something that you would want to do.
All right. I'm just curious, Thomas, back then when you were creating the offering from One Click Factory, what was the number of customers you were calculating that would basically make a break even in this investment?
So
was it
I like
50 or is it a few hundred?
Yeah, I like Tobias' number as well. So we're also using in some of our communication this number of 50. But in general, as it's clear, we have a little bit different model than the Cosmo has. So they are selling to customers, we are selling to partners. So in Cosmo scenario, they are having all the margin that they are providing, that they are getting. In our case, we are sharing this with a partner. So in our case, it's a higher number. When we started to calculate, we already understood that something like 100, 150 is the minimum that we need to reach just to have it maybe not profitable yet, but at least to balance our investments and our costs. So we need to understand and we need to get to that number. So it was pretty complicated as usually. And in the scenario that I usually try to say, I always mentioning that you need to reach this in 3 years. And to find it, to do this in a one day, it's not possible because you lack a lot of knowledge, you lack even the market. But 3 years is usually realistic. And in 3 years, if you are investing in the right way, you will definitely get to the profit at the end of the day. So it's I would put it as like 150 and 3 years investment.
Okay, that's a pretty clear numbers. Now we have basically discussed a little bit about the business justification to create the offering, but maybe now let's talk a little bit more what it really takes, to create that offering from an organizational and technical point of view. And Christian, I'd like to ask you. So you were at basically one of the creators of the offering in Cosmo.
Mm-hmm.
So what key aspects you had to think about when making this offering to your customers? I'm sure it's not only running up the VM or SQL server.
Yeah, this was really one thing that we had in mind from the beginning. It's not only a technical thing. It's much more than to deploy some virtual machines and some databases and hook them up cleverly and make them available to the customer. Our goal was to run a repeatable, standardized industrial service. And so we had to think about a lot of non-technical dimensions like availability, business continuity, performance, security, and quality of service. Those were all very important design factors that were that overshadowed completely the technical solution, because in the end, Business Central, it's a Windows virtual machine and a SQL database. But we had to invest a significant amount of time in the legal aspects, for example, also. For example, responsibilities, shared responsibility with the customer. What are we going to be liable for? And then, of course, you have this complete legal construct like GDPR and NDAs for your people and such stuff. There is a lot of things that the normal technician like myself doesn't think of when thinking about hosting.
Yeah, and the thing is that you cannot, let's say, ignore any of them. You say security, GDPR, SLA, performance. I mean, if one piece of the puzzle is missing, then you're in trouble. Your customers won't have.
For example,
Sorry, go on.
And also in regard to your salespeople, because as we heard already, it's a volume business. So you need to have salespeople out there that are promoting the service. You can't run the service financially profitable if you say, okay, there will be 1 or 2 customers once or twice a year. You have to have a sales force that is going to push that offering to your customers. And they are you need to train them. You need to provide flyers. You need to provide marketing material. You need to provide a sound SLA that doesn't get you in trouble later and so on. So this is what I mean with the non-technical stuff. That's very important.
And I may speak here from my own shoes, running the cloud business line at One Click Factory. Dealing with the salespeople, you need to make the offering as simple as possible, as with limited set of options to sell, with a very clear pricing point, which might not be very easy when you talk about all those components that are needed to be taken care of. But talking about the IT perspective, Christian, what was most difficult or most important on setting up the IT side of the offering?
For the IT side, the technical side, I think sizing for performance was our main challenge. And the ERP usage patterns are so different between customers. And even with the same code or even in the same industry, they have absolutely different performance requirements. And to fit that with a very easy price list and with less options to decide from in the sales phase, this was the most difficult aspect to find.
Okay. But would you say, well, you or Chris or Tobias would say, was there like any specifics on setting up any VBC on Azure from that side?
Well, we also started with a mindset, what can be so difficult to run some NAV or VC instances for customers? But this is fun for 1 or 2 or 3 customers and your normal project knowledge that keeps you running there with 3 or 5 customers. But we had to learn very soon that the efficient repeatability is very important also. It's a volume business, and so you need to say, okay, I can provide a new instance within hours. And an instance that is not only one VM and one database, but also completely integrated in backups and security, in GDPR and all that. So this was the most painful learning moments that we had, that repeatability is very important.
Okay.
Maybe just to add what I think is really special about NAV or Business Central is the tight integration between the code and the infrastructure side. So if you look into people in the market who are very good on Azure, infrastructure specialists, automation specialists, whatever, they usually, if they've never been in touch with Business Central, are surprised and struggle when they understand how close that integration is, and that you, for example, an upgrade is just impossible if you're not able to also use the coding tools or things like that, where it's really different from the traditional model where you have your operations people, maybe someone for storage, someone for the middle tier, the web server or whatever, and the development is completely separated. And certainly the skill is completely separated, but for NAV or Business Central, that's different, and there's more integration and connection. And so it's kind of, you look into the market for people who can help you, and you can, if you're lucky, you will find people who are proficient in Azure. But then still you need to do quite a bit of enablement on the NAV side as well, because it's not only installing the NAV server and getting it up and running, but you also need other skills, or at least understand what the rest is doing, and that is certainly specific for NAV and BC.
So Tobias, you have touched very interesting side of building the offering, right? So is it possible to build that offering using the same people that you already have? Let's imagine you are regular, normal, let's say Dynamics partner who has an understanding in Dynamics, obviously. And then you have a choice, basically, either to train your own people, your existing people on Azure and all those infrastructure things, or hire people with Azure skills and then train them with Dynamics, or maybe just to create a separate team, to run that business. So is it possible to run it with your existing team, or would you need like a separate, I would say, both specialized and combined knowledge team?
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, it's certainly impossible to do this with an existing team that is just a traditional VAR, because as Christian said, it's a volume business. It's about automating. It's about monitoring, all the kind of things that, at least in my experience, are not that important if you're just a traditional VAR who is doing a couple of projects here and there, or maybe many projects, but you're not into running a production environment. So that is really a completely different challenge, a completely different topic where you need people with different mindsets, basically. It's maybe closer if you already have people who are creating products. So if you are an ISV as well, then I think the topic is a bit closer or more similar than to a VAR business. But still, I would say you definitely need a lot of specialized Azure knowledge. If you don't have that, you would need to bring in someone else. And then again, you need to bring it together with the NAV knowledge. So building it up from an existing team, I mean, nothing's impossible, right? You can learn everything, but I think the path there is longer, and it takes you more effort than at least bringing in some external experts on the Azure side, and also someone who has kind of an experience with automation and scaling.
Yeah, and well, again, if you are building the volume business, the scale business, well, one-person team would not do it all. You need to ensure, the support and, different time zones and many people that need to be working on that. So maybe, Thomas, then the question to you. So when you were creating the service at One Click Factory, what were the most important competencies that you were looking in creating the team that would be delivering the service?
So actually, Tobias, I think, explained very well. So at the beginning, you need to find the people with the right mindset. This is what is actually the most important, because you need to understand that it's not like a single project business. It's a really volume business. And what we did, we actually found the person who is looking at this as a volume business, who can understand. But initial was with a Business Central or with NAV experience and knowledge. And why we saw that it's very important to have Business Central and in general ERP experience and knowledge, because not every infrastructure person understands the importance of unavailability, or let's say when you cannot access an ERP system. For people like infrastructure people, they say, okay, so if it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes or half an hour, you cannot get an email. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay for email. it's not okay for ERP system. And for ERP system, it's not okay even 1 second, because during that second, some integration may happen, which if it fails, it may have an inconsistent in different systems. So you need to have a person who understands what is an importance of this availability, of performance, of all the other stuff. And based on that, this person also needs to have this, let's say, evolving business mindset. So we started from that, and then we added all other experts. So we added all infrastructure people just to support, because yes, when you are ERP or Business Central or an AV expert, you have no idea what can happen with a Windows Server, what can happen with SQL Server, what can happen with security challenges, with all the other stuff, with networking and so on and so on. Independently on how much times you install the Windows Server on the customer computer, it's not the same world. It's a virtual world where you have no access to a server physically, so you need to do a lot of different stuff just to make sure that everything runs, and runs not just for the time when you're installing, but also 24/7. So you don't need to do all the rest. And then the last piece that is usually people forgot is actually this monitoring. And again, when we talk about all the stuff, we in the ERP business, we usually think, so if something will happen, customer will call. Yeah, they will call when they will not be able to access ERP. But will they notice, for example, if it's not working and integrations are broken, or if someone from outside is trying to access your servers? Will they notice that? Probably not. So you need to be on top of all this, and yeah, it's much more complicated world. So we understood, we started, and we learned during all those years a lot of new stuff. And even today, if you will ask me how I would start the business back then, now I know much more knowledge. So I would add much more things to that starting than we were added at that time. But yeah, we are learning every day.
So Thomas, you have mentioned some, I would say, scenarios like monitoring and security. And security is a big topic, right? It was, and it always be, the big topic. So the mistakes in setting up security and ensuring security can be super costly. So maybe then the question to Christian and Tobias. So what advice would you give to the partner who would be considering doing it themselves in terms of ensuring security? Is there any very specific aspect that they should never look away and make sure that they cover that?
Well, maybe never open port 3389 to the internet.
That's a good advice.
However, you mentioned a very, very important factor. Yes, the infrastructure runs on Azure, and Azure has some components and functions that will assist you in keeping all your infrastructure secure. But we found out that even by leveraging Azure Security Center or Azure Defender, there needs to be somebody in the team that will monitor those calls and will monitor those tickets that Azure Defender will provide you aplenty. You will see 5,000 recommendations what to improve in your stance, in your security posture. And you need to react to that. You need to also have a business angle on that. Say, okay, this is now absolutely necessary, and from a cost-benefit scenario, this is also very important, and we will do that. And also decide other things need to be handled in a different way. Yeah, so this is also a person business. I would like to emphasize that it's, from my point of view, also impossible to do this as a one-man show. Absolutely. So we at Cosmo, we have 6 to 8 roles that are dedicated to that. It's the Cloud and IT Services team. We have the Azure specialists that run all the logistics and log analytics, monitoring, security stuff. We have the NAV part and the DevOps part. Yeah, those are two factions, so to say, in themselves. Still, we are working in combining them, but they're still not so much combined we maybe would like it. Then we have the SQL gurus, we have the security officers, and of course there's a management plane also. You need to have somebody who has the oversight, who can evangelize this business and promote it further. And I would come back to something that Tobias said in the beginning. We don't run the Cosmo Cloud, which our platform is called, for Business Central alone. We did that only to provide an overall platform for other services also. And they are also planned to be the cash cows of the future. Because to be really honest, I think that the Business Central hosting thing is a little bit under pressure from the SaaS offerings that Microsoft is building. And so this is a very, very important strategic factor to take into account if you were to decide if you want to run a new hosting business now.
Yeah, maybe add to that, completely agree, but also to really stress this is a continuous effort, especially on the security side. So just because you're safe today doesn't mean that you're still safe tomorrow or actually 5 minutes from now, because there are things like zero-day exploits and people are getting really creative in trying to get your data. So this is really absolutely an ongoing effort, and you need to stay on top of your game there and make sure that you really understand what is happening day to day and have someone, as Chris said, who's doing basically nothing else but watching out for that and making sure that you're as safe as you were yesterday.
Yeah, and even looking at the security certification, which I would say most of the customers require from this kind of the service provider, it needs to be recertified every year. And we at One Click Factory, we passed this ISO 27001 certification on the security topic. Thomas, maybe could you reveal how complicated was that, and whether like any changes we had to do internally to basically adhere to these standards, ISO standards?
So actually, we started thinking about the security from the beginning. So it was always one of the key priorities for everything that we were doing. We even have it as a priority number one in all our communication internally, that priority number one is security. So we were preparing for quite a long time. And actually, I was very happy when there was auditors, when they come and tested us according to this ISO 27001 certification. They were really surprised, and they said, we cannot remember even a case where the company was so prepared as you are. So we really spent a lot of time. We invested a lot of people's time. We invested a lot of in teaching and learning and understanding and changing just to get on the level that we are. We know that it's not perfect, as Tobias said. You are never perfect in that. There are a lot of things that you need to improve, that you need to do on a daily basis. So we do a lot of things, or even today. So we are trying to test all these things, all the different situations, finding a lot of new challenges that might come. So we are working on this preventing job. So it's the same like with this volume business. It's not like you just did and forgot about that. It's not. It's a running business. You need to invest in it every day, every minute, every second, even say, I would say. So,
and also to get back, it's also a mindset issue, because in a traditional project business, you're probably to some degree looking for people who are very creative at providing solutions for your problems. But in something like a hosted offering with a managed SLA, the creative solutions are the ones that really get you into trouble, because it works for the first 5 customers, but unfortunately it breaks on the 6th, or it works for the first 35, but the 36 is having a problem. So you really need to have the people who are willing to go the extra step and do things in a very ordered, a very, very specific way, to really think about all the aspects of the things that they are doing, do nothing on impulse, not try to be creative and just fix a problem quickly, but really think about what you're doing. And to a degree, you can teach that, but to a degree, that is also something that is like a character trait, and you need to find the right people for that as well.
So, well, this webinar, of course, is not long enough to discuss every single aspect in detail. So we discussed some business justification to build an offering, some aspects that needs to be taken care of, like security, SLA, support, scale, and so on. So basically, a few things that partner needs to take into consideration if they want to create this offering for their customers. But maybe something from our presenters, like a tip to the partners that they should not do any mistakes that you guys have made creating this offering, and that you wouldn't basically recommend the other fellow partners to follow. I know, Tobias, Christian, is there any any mistake that you would like to admit or to share that nobody should do?
I can only emphasize, don't underestimate standardization. It's really important, as Tobias said. Coming from a project business myself, I also know this approach to say, okay, we will fix it if we break it, and then it will run. But if you have to think about to patch 50 servers that you misconfigured in a stance, then you really get in stress. And so never underestimate that. You don't think in one hosting after the other. Think large if you think so, and keep in mind that you have to replicate and have repeatability.
Yeah, maybe also close to something that Christian said before, don't underestimate the variety of your customers. So don't think you have seen 3 and now you have seen the other 30 or other 50, or in case of One Click Factory, the other 1,000 or however many. But really, every customer is new, every customer is different. That counters, of course, your standardization efforts, because you will have to learn something over and over again. And basically, what you need is a standardized way to adapt to individual characteristics. You can't handle everyone differently. You need an approach for that, but you need to be aware that probably customer 38 is different from customer 37 and all the 36 before. And you need to figure out a way how you can handle that.
Mm-hmm. And Thomas, well, we were discussing like privately with you some time ago how much it takes for, let's say, for the engineer, for the experienced or unexperienced person to set it up everything correctly. And obviously it's like, no, days versus minutes if you are using some automated platform. So probably underestimating the complexity, or underestimating the cost of the people doing that is also important. And so Thomas, what would you say to those partners who would basically address this situation in a very simple way, right? For example, they have BC. No, they think they would go to the local hoster, buy the VM, run the SQL Server, run the NAV, and that's basically it. If partner has 3 customers, that doesn't look like too complicated. What would you give an advice to the partner in this situation?
So let me start from our conversation at first. So in general, yeah, so when I was doing some presentations some time ago, I was telling always that just to configure everything on Azure, it takes something like 1 or 2 weeks for non-experienced people, and probably half of the or 1 day for the very experienced people who do it very frequently. So, but as I mentioned before, the more you know, the more you understand, the bigger challenges you see. And if I would do the same today, and if I would say the same today, I would say for less experienced people, 2 weeks is not enough, because the more you learn, the more you understand, the more you find that yes, you need to do this from the beginning. And then it starts from what is important. So everything is important, starting from security, finishing with monitoring. And I can share also one of the experience that we had. It's actually a very negative experience, but it happens for each and everyone. So as Tobias said, even if you know that 63 or 36 customers are running, so it doesn't matter that the next one will be exactly the same. So we understood the importance of, for example, backup monitoring, just by having an accident when we really need a backup and we do not have it 1 second before. So it seems it's not very big problem, but in some cases it's really a big problem. So backup monitoring, usually people forget about this. And we understood that this is one of the critical stuff. So you need to configure even such a unimportant thing like backups, they are not running. You need to always to monitor what is happening with them. Can you restore from the backup? They are stored in a safe place. Nobody can access those, and so on and so on and so on. So even those small pieces, the more experience you have, the more understanding you have that you need to take care about that. So yeah, it's. I would say if you want to start today, try to find a person who already know all of this.
All right.
It will be the easiest way.
So time flies very fast, and I see that we are already coming to the let's say final part of the webinar. So maybe I would like to ask one more thing, especially to Cosmo friends. So Microsoft SaaS is evolving, right? Their version is basically, I would say, getting better and better every day. Do you? And that would be a provocative question. Do you still see there's a room for this hosted offering for your customers?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. The SaaS offering is really getting better by the day. We have very, very many happy customers running on SaaS. They really are happy with what they are getting. And to be honest, if a customer is completely open, we would always advise to go into a SaaS environment. That's the path to go. That's the right searching for the word, the right suggestion to make to the customer. That's the right decision at the moment. If you look at it, and there's nothing holding you back, then SaaS is definitely the way to go, in my opinion. But then there are some realities that might block you from that one. You might be in a regulated industry, so you can't just allow updates to be installed. You need to validate them. You need to document the validation. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to still be in business. So that's, for example, a scenario. Or you might be someone who is running in the public sector, where their data security laws are even more strict. You can't allow the data to leave the country, and unfortunately, there's no Azure data center in your country yet. Something like that. Or the SaaS offering doesn't yet allow the localization that you need. You have, I don't know, a company in China, and there's no China localization yet. So things like that will be a reason why you want to look into something like a hosted offering. So do I think this is the growth market of the future? Probably not, but there definitely is still a segment of the market where this is an interesting offering. And it's maybe not number one on our offering list, but it certainly is 1B. If the SaaS offering doesn't fit for whatever reason, we are very happy to be able to offer this to our customers, and a lot of them are very happy with us offering it. So that totally makes sense.
All right, I can totally agree with what you said. Thomas, maybe any final tips to the partners that are still considering trying to do it themselves versus basically reusing the specialized hosting platforms?
So I again agree with Tobias. We are always in alignment, seems like. So cloud offering, when we talk about this, so SaaS should be number one, because yeah, at the end of the day, it is the very simple, less complicated scenario when you as a partner don't need to think about the servers, about backups, and about tons of other things. But in scenarios where you cannot do that, it's always possible to go this do by myself way. But as you mentioned before, it was a very good story 5, 6, 7 years ago. Now it's not that simple. And one of the reasons is because SaaS is becoming more and more strong solution. So, and you need to invest like 3 years. So after 3 years, if you still believe that you will have this market, if you can read those 50 or 100 or 200 customers that are using your cloud hosting solution, then you can invest in your own cloud. If not, you can always find a solution provided by the hosting partner like One Click Factory, where you don't need to invest in all those skills. You don't need to invest in all those Azure technologies, even though you need to invest in those because you need to understand how you can integrate with Business Central. But you don't need to worry about the servers to run Business Central. You don't need to worry about the backups, about the security, and about a lot of other things, how to configure, how to upgrade technically, and so on and so on. So it's not, from my perspective, it's already past time, unless you really have this very smart person with all these skills. Now it's better to look for alternatives. But in parallel, for sure, anyway, you need to learn Azure, because Azure is the future, and anyway, you need to integrate with Business Central.
All right. But I still hope this webinar gave insights and useful information to our listeners and viewers. So if any of you would like to try create a hosting offer yourself, then it's definitely possible. Just make sure you take into consideration all the relevant aspects and security as well. It takes some time, it takes some investments. ROI might not be that fast as it probably was a few years ago, but that's possible. Everything is possible. If you don't want to spend your resources on that, you can always partner with the specialized hosting providers like us, or basically partner with other partners like Cosmo Consult. So again, thank you everyone for participating in this webinar. Again, I hope you found it interesting. And if in any questions, just let us know. We are available at oneclickfactory.com and cosmoconsult.com to help you. So I would like to thank as well our participants. Thank you, Tobias, Christian, Thomas, and we'll see you on the next webinar.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.